So we've got some movement in the WNBA offseason, namely from a strange trade by the Chicago Sky. I'm not going to sit here and call it the worst trade I've ever seen or disaster or anything until I see the subsequent moves, but very odd. The Sky trade some later draft picks to the Tempo and the Fire to ensure that their players are protected, meaning the Tempo and the Fire won't take any of their players in the expansion draft. But the thing is, did the Sky have a roster full of players those two teams wanted to take in the first place? It was a roster that had the worst.
The trade went down in total silence. Now, the entire WNBA is reeling from the sudden fallout. The Chicago Sky just pulled a move so bizarre that it has the league's biggest stars, including Caitlin Clark, looking over their shoulders in pure confusion. They didn't just swap players, they essentially paid a ransom to keep a roster that finished dead last in the standings. It's a move that defies every logic of professional sports and creates a ripple effect that could ruin the competitive balance of the entire 2025 season. The front office is playing a dangerous game, and the consequences are starting to leak out. This isn't just a minor transaction, it's a structural disaster waiting to happen.
Draft. But the thing is, did the Sky have a roster full of players those two teams wanted to take in the first place? It was a roster that had the worst record in the WNBA last season. So, Stan Pat, good job. You're keeping that team intact. That's my first reaction when I see it, because it did just catch me off guard a little bit. Here are the exact details as posted by their own account. The Sky received the 2026 round 2 pick 21. In turn, Portland gets pick 17. So for that swap of 4 places in the draft, the Fire will not.
Here is the deal that has everyone scratching their heads and wondering if the Sky have completely lost the plot. They traded away future draft assets to the new expansion teams, the Portland Fire and the Golden State Tempo, for one specific reason: to ensure that neither team takes a single player from their current roster. Think about that for a second. You are giving up valuable picks to protect a group of players that couldn't even claw their way out of the bottom of the league last year. It's like putting a high-tech security system on a house that's already burning down. The rest of the league is watching this and asking what Chicago knows that they don't, or if they're just desperate.
But their point differential was actually worse, though the Sun had slightly worse point differential than the Sky. And then you go to the roster itself and you say, all right, who are these players that they're protecting? I mean, I'm imagining they'd protect Cardoso being on a rookie deal and that they drafted her. You obviously imagine they protect Angel Reese. They just made the trade for Atkins, so I guess they protect her. But I mean, like, I look at that roster and I don't go, there's a whole bunch of players that you definitely need to protect on that roster. They made the trade for Van Lith, which wound up being Van Lith in the draft last year, so maybe the logic is
This creates an unbelievable problem for the WNBA, because it signals a total breakdown in how teams are supposed to build through expansion. For someone like Caitlin Clark, who is the focal point of the league's growth, seeing an organization like the Sky sabotage their own future is a nightmare. If teams at the bottom aren't trying to get better through the draft, the league becomes top-heavy and stagnant. The Sky received the 2026 second-round pick at number 21, but in turn, they gave Portland pick 17. They swapped 4 spots backward just to protect players who arguably wouldn't even be starters on a championship-caliber team. It is a massive gamble.
Factor, right? Like Angel Reese said what she said about the Sky last year. And it's not exactly like she was wrong, right? Like, she wasn't wrong to say that the Sky are a crappy organization. I mean, she didn't say that directly, but that's, everybody kind of knows that the Sky are a crappy organization. But she did sort of throw her teammates under the bus in the process, which I didn't think was cool. I mean, I think there's a way to deliver the message without doing that. And Courtney Vandersloot was obviously hurt by that, who's a veteran of the league. How much did that hurt Reese's relationship?
When you look at the Chicago roster, the confusion only grows deeper. You have to ask yourself who these untouchable players actually are. Sure, you protect Camila Cardoso because she's a rookie powerhouse, and you obviously protect Angel Reese because she's the face of the brand. But beyond that, the roster was tied for the worst record in the league last season. Their point differential was a total disaster, even worse than some of the other struggling teams. By protecting everyone, the Sky are essentially saying they are happy with being at the bottom. They are choosing to keep a losing core intact rather than letting expansion teams take the dead weight off their books.
That is another thing to consider with the Sky off season. I mean, I did say they put together some theme nights. Well, this is their trade again. They put together some theme nights this year, and there's no Barbie night as one of them, which is one of the things that fans noticed when they've had Barbie nights, I think the last 2 years, and obviously that being a tie-in with Angel Reese. And then there's, the idea also that the Sky are definitely not incentivized to tank. Like, you go into this next year's draft, right? And if you're thinking about the 2027 WNBA draft,
there is also the massive Angel Reese factor that cannot be ignored in this equation. Last year, Reese made some very pointed comments about the Sky organization, and while she didn't call them crappy directly, that was the message everyone received loud and clear. She was frustrated, and she wasn't exactly wrong about the state of the franchise. However, in the process of venting her frustration, she reportedly threw some of her own teammates under the bus. That kind of locker room friction is toxic, and it leads to questions about whether this roster even wants to stay together. Why protect a group of players who might not even be on speaking terms?
And if you're thinking about the 2027 WNBA draft, that is a loaded draft, or at least it should be a loaded draft, right? Like, Juju Watkins could be in that draft. Madison Booker could be in that draft. Hannah Hidalgo could be in that draft. Michaela Blakes could be in that draft. A bunch of different players. A much better draft next year than this year on paper. But the Sky don't control their pick because they traded a pick swap to the Washington Mystics.
The tension between Reese and the veterans, like Courtney Vandersloot, was visible to anyone paying close attention. Vandersloot is a legend in this league, and seeing that relationship sour was a huge red flag for the future of the Sky. Now, with this expansion trade, the organization is doubling down on a roster that is already fractured. Fans have also noticed something strange on the team's promotional calendar. In previous years, Barbie Night was a massive event tied directly to Angel Reese's persona. This year, it's suspiciously missing from the theme nights. It makes you wonder if the bridge between the star player and the front office has already been burned beyond repair.
Relationship is like with Angel Reese and the front office and the organization, because she's the face of the squad. I am also in the camp that Reese and Cardoso, I just don't think is a long-term fit. I think Angel Reese is at her best as a small ball center. To be quite honest, she doesn't really spread the floor, shoot the ball. I know she's working on it some, but that's not her game. I think she's at her best when you surround her with shooters and scorers. She can do the dirty work on the boards, and she's not forced into a situation where the defense is daring her to shoot the ball or beat them from the outside or anything like that.
If the relationship with Angel Reese is truly reaching a breaking point, the Sky are in a position of extreme vulnerability. She is the engine that drives their ticket sales and media attention. If she's unhappy, the entire house of cards falls down. And yet, the front office is busy trading away picks to protect the very teammates she allegedly had friction with. It's a contradictory mess that suggests the people in charge don't have a unified vision. They are trying to please everyone and ending up pleasing no one. This is exactly the kind of organizational chaos that makes top-tier talent like Caitlin Clark worry about the professional standards of the league. The long-term damage of this trade goes way beyond just next season.
With Cardoso either, and those are the two players they've invested the most in, at least with draft capital. So you would hope they're not just that inept where they have no idea what they're doing, and there is some strategy behind this move. But at the same time, you do have to continue to wonder what exactly is going on with the thinking behind the brain trust of the Chicago Sky.
We are looking at a 2027 WNBA draft that is expected to be one of the most loaded in the history of women's basketball. You're talking about potential superstars like Juju Watkins, Madison Booker, and Hannah Hidalgo all entering the league at the same time. Any team in their right mind would be doing everything possible to secure high picks for that year, but the Chicago Sky don't even control their own destiny for that draft. They traded away a pick swap to the Washington Mystics as part of the deal for Ariel Atkins. They are effectively locked out of a generational talent pool. That trade for Ariel Atkins is aging like milk in the summer sun. Washington walked away with the number 3 pick in 2025 and the rights to swap picks in 2027, leaving Chicago with very little leverage. When you combine that with this new expansion trade, you see a pattern of the Sky front office giving away their future for short-term fixes that don't actually fix anything. They are losing their grip on the draft while their current roster continues to struggle. It's a recipe for a decade of mediocrity, and it's the exact reason why fans are starting to lose faith in the brain trust running the show in Chicago right now. On the court, the problems are just as glaring, specifically when you look at the pairing of Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. On paper, having two dominant post players sounds great, but in the modern WNBA, spacing is everything. Neither Reese nor Cardoso are known for their ability to shoot from the perimeter or spread the floor. They both want to operate in the same real estate under the basket. This creates a massive tactical nightmare for the coaching staff. Reese is at her absolute best as a small ball center who can dominate the boards and do the dirty work, but that only works if she's surrounded by elite shooters who can draw the defense away. When you force Reese and Cardoso to play together, you are basically daring the opposing defense to pack the paint and ignore the outside shot. Unless one of them develops a reliable jump shot overnight, they are going to be tripping over each other all season long. This lack of fit is another reason why protecting the entire roster makes zero sense. They should be looking to move pieces that don't fit the puzzle, not hoarding them. Instead, they are doubling down on a Twin Tower experiment that many analysts believe is doomed to fail in a league that is getting faster and more perimeter-oriented every single day. The expansion teams, the Portland Fire and the Golden State Tempo, must be laughing all the way to the bank. They managed to extract assets from Chicago without even having to break a sweat. They knew the Sky were panicked about their roster stability, and they used that leverage to secure better draft positioning. It's a masterclass in how to exploit a struggling franchise. While the expansion teams are building for the future with extra picks, Chicago is stuck in a loop of trying to save a sinking ship. This creates a power vacuum in the league where the new teams might actually become competitive faster than the established ones. This situation creates an unbelievable problem for the WNBA, because it devalues the expansion draft process. The whole point of expansion is to allow new teams to build a foundation from the existing talent pool. If every team starts paying off the expansion franchises to not take their players, the draft becomes a joke. It turns into a backroom deal session rather than a fair distribution of talent. The league office can't be happy seeing one of its major market teams act this way. It makes the WNBA look disorganized at a time when they are trying to prove they are a top-tier professional sports league on the global stage. What is the vision for the Chicago Sky? If you ask 5 different people, you'll get 5 different answers. Some think they are trying to stay competitive to keep Angel Reese happy, while others think they are just incompetent. The reality is likely somewhere in the middle, which is the most dangerous place to be. You can't half-heartedly rebuild while also trying to win now. You end up failing at both. By trading away picks to protect a losing roster, they are essentially choosing to stay bad for longer. It's a strategy that has no clear upside, and it's leaving the fans in Chicago frustrated and confused about the direction of their team. The fear is that this organizational chaos will eventually drive away their top stars. In the modern era of player empowerment, no superstar wants to stay with a crappy organization that doesn't have a plan. If Angel Reese sees that the front office is making puzzling trades and losing draft capital, she might start looking for the exit door sooner than anyone expects. Losing a player of her caliber would be a death blow to the franchise. The Sky are essentially holding their breath, hoping that these moves somehow lead to a breakthrough, but hope is not a viable strategy in professional basketball. Meanwhile, the rest of the league is getting smarter. Teams like the Indiana Fever, led by Caitlin Clark, are focusing on building a cohesive unit around a generational talent. They are making moves that make sense for the long term. The contrast between how the Fever are building and how the Sky are operating is startling. One team is moving toward a bright future, while the other is stuck in a cycle of desperation and reactionary trades. This disparity is going to become even more obvious once the games actually start, and the Sky realize that protecting their roster didn't actually make the team any better on the court. There is also the financial aspect of this mess. By protecting everyone, the Sky are locking themselves into certain salary cap hits that might prevent them from being players in free agency. They are essentially saying, "We like what we have," even though what they have resulted in a last-place finish. It's a bizarre form of loyalty to a failing product. In a league where the talent level is rising every year, staying the same is the same thing as getting worse. The Sky are standing still while the rest of the WNBA is sprinting past them, and that is a recipe for total disaster in the very near future. The 2026 and 2027 seasons are going to be the ultimate test for this front office. If they don't show significant improvement, the calls for a total overhaul are going to become deafening. They have put themselves in a position where they have no margin for error. Every trade they make from here on out has to be a home run, but their track record suggests that's unlikely. They are playing with fire by trading away their draft picks, especially when the upcoming classes are so deep with talent. It's a high-stakes game of poker, and it looks like the Chicago Sky are bluffing with a very weak hand. Speculation is also swirling about whether the Sky are planning a much larger trade that hasn't been announced yet. Some insiders wonder if they are protecting these players just so they can use them as trade bait in a blockbuster deal later this off-season. That would be the only logical explanation for this puzzling expansion move. If they can package multiple protected players for a legitimate superstar or a haul of picks, then maybe there was a method to the madness. But until that happens, we have to judge them on the moves they've already made, and right now, the grade is a solid F from most league observers. The fan reaction has been brutal, and for good reason. Chicago fans are knowledgeable, and they can see when a team is spinning its wheels. Social media has been flooded with questions about why Barbie Night was cancelled and why the team is giving away picks to protect a roster that didn't win games. The pressure is mounting on everyone from the GM to the coaching staff. If this season starts with a string of losses, the atmosphere in that arena is going to turn toxic very quickly. The organization is on thin ice, and these expansion trades might have just cracked it wide open for everyone to see. At the end of the day, the WNBA is a business, and the Chicago Sky are currently a struggling one. They are trying to navigate a complex landscape of expansion and rising talent with a strategy that seems outdated and fearful. Whether it's the friction with Angel Reese, the lack of fit between their stars, or the baffling trade decisions, the red flags are everywhere. For the sake of the league's growth and the fans in Chicago, we have to hope there is a secret plan that hasn't been revealed yet, because if this is the best they can do, the future looks incredibly bleak for the Sky. This whole situation serves as a cautionary tale for the rest of the league. It shows how quickly an organization can lose its way when it stops focusing on the future and starts reacting out of fear. The WNBA is in a golden era of popularity, but that popularity is built on competition and star power. When a major team like the Sky creates an unbelievable problem through puzzling trades, it hurts everyone involved.